Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. We are live from Los Angeles. This is Mondays with Wallace. I'm your host, Wallace Peoples, and we speak every Monday at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time about everything, anything cannabis. Cannabis this, cannabis that. You are on LA Flight 420, live from Los Angeles. Thanks for being aboard. We will be taking your calls at 424-227-9461. We're live on Facebook, and you could find us on YouTube. You can find us on SoundCloud, and you can find me under Mondays with Wallace. I'm a board-certified pharmacist. I discuss cannabis, and we are a think tank. We are from a think tank perspective. I used to say conservative perspective, and some of my friends seem to think that identifies me with being a Trump supporter, and I'm not a Trump supporter. I didn't vote for Trump. Some of the Trump ideologies kind of bother. I wouldn't say they bother me so much, but I do have a guest with me today, Carol Lemire. Carol, how are you?
I'm good, but you are a Trump supporter.
I'm certainly not a Trump supporter.
Signs of it.
I don't saw any signs of it. I think that with politics, I certainly look in on politics, and I certainly have kids, and I certainly want to advocate or be an advocate for my kids. So my kids have a tough time. You know, we do live in Los Angeles, and in Los Angeles, it is exceptionally competitive. This is a voting. The midterms are really an important time right now, and I'm in the political mood. I think we're all in the political mood. Are you voting this year, Carol?
Did he just ask me that?
Yeah, I did.
Of course I'm voting.
That's good.
I can't stand these people. I don't like racist people. I grew up around it. You know, being Native American, where I'm from, we were the horrible people to them.
Well, if you look at Native Americans, Native Americans are just that, Native Americans. And when initially they landed, when Christopher Columbus, quote unquote,
when those people landed, not us. We were already here.
Well, when Christopher Columbus discovered America in
he didn't discover America. We were here. We're the Americans. What are you talking about? I'm Native American and I'm registered, so I don't know what you're talking about.
In 1492.
But you didn't. They did not. We lived there already. How could they took our land? Now is that what you're going to say? Made slaves of my people.
Well,
nailed our kids to trees. I can show you pictures.
Well, that's pretty.
So that's really. I can't believe you even said that.
But that's what we were all taught.
No, we weren't all taught that. We weren't all taught that. They don't teach our history in school. You know why? It's the biggest bloodbath in history, and it was done in this country. So, do you think they want to talk about it?
You know,
they don't want to teach that. The only thing they get mad about, we killed Custer. Wow, we killed. They don't tell you what they did to my people. They act like we scalped. They were scalping people. They were making purses from our people. So I'm sorry when you say when you guys discovered America.
I can totally get the vitriol. I totally get it.
You even said that.
Most people don't realize this about George Armstrong Custer. He's from the Toledo area, by the way. I'm from Toledo, Ohio, and George Custer's from Toledo, Ohio, and he was killed at Little Bighorn.
Thank you.
George Custer, he was one of our
and that's the only thing they talk about. They don't talk about the Trail of Tears. They don't talk about nothing. They don't tell you about the wastelands they gave us, but unfortunately, some of those lands are valuable, like Palm Springs.
I think you're right. I agree.
Oh, I know I'm right. I can't believe you would think that. Well, Native Americans, we weren't here first. Give me a break.
But it's just our listeners and our audience.
I'm sure our listeners understand right where I'm coming from.
Oh, I'm sure. Even I understand.
I mean, if they have their way right now, they're trying to bring us back in history. If you see what they're doing. I mean, why are all these white men packing guns and that and headed to the borders to get behind our soldiers? Now, are we going to allow that?
Well,
we've allowed this for years, Amnesty. Why would we change on people?
I want to ask you, and we do, as you all know, we talk about marijuana every week on Mondays with Wallace. This is Mondays with Wallace. We have Steve Cotton with us. He's our expert from SC Edibles.
Good afternoon. Thanks for having me today.
And we have obviously Carol Lemire here. Carol, we're so thankful for you always, and we're so thankful for you too. Today our show is about addictive qualities of marijuana, and we're talking about the cocoa plant versus the hemp plant. Carol did bring up some, I mean, it is a political arena right now. So, Stephen, what is your idea? What is your idea about whether they should be protecting our border, our southern border? And mind you, there is a racial oversight, overtone. Curious. Well, from people flooding our border, people just rushing.
These Asians that are all here, and these Russians, and these Romanians, and these white people? What about them? What about his wife, who was illegal when she came here and had a kid? Are they sending her back and her child?
You're probably talking about Trump's wife.
Yes, Trump's wife.
Trump's wife.
So I'm just saying, why are we just taking brown people? What about, I had a white girl living in my house, because he's hitting on subjects that irritate me.
No, it's okay. I'm thankful for it.
She was living in my house. Now, I've known her for years. Do you know this girl gets put in rehabs? Do you know who pays for it? Our taxes do. Now, she's not a citizen of the United States, but she's white. She's from London. Do you know the last time she stayed with me, I threw her out just like that.
Oh,
she
Carol,
peed
come on.
all over my floors.
Carol.
I can't even tell you how this, but she constantly gets welfare. She gets food stamps. Now, if we were in London, we wouldn't be there. Because if you can't make your own money in London, you don't stay.
Carol,
it's not that simple.
I think you're a Trump supporter.
Oh,
and
never.
if you just think about
if you
just think about your if you just think about your argument is the young lady from London who wasn't clean, and she stayed at your house, and she's constantly getting benefits, and you're making the argument that
I'm not making an argument. I'm trying to tell you, when you sit here and you think that these walls should be put up to stop people, why are these walls only being put up where Latin people come in? I'm just curious.
Well, I think generally speaking, in the Michigan area, they had a physician, a doctor who was from, I believe, Yugoslavia. He was actually deported after living.
One out of how many? I'm just curious.
No, but I'm just saying,
out of how many?
It's easy to make it a black or white or brown or.
Well, let me ask you
and you're probably right when you look at Trump's narrative.
Let me ask you a question. How do you feel about these people from months and months ago, which we've all put to the back of our brains? These little kids that are put in these, I call them concentration camps, and their parents. We've all moved on like they don't exist. What about them? Are we worried about them? Is it right to do that?
Well, how would I, as a parent, feel about, living in, let's say I lived in Compton. Let's say I lived in Compton. And there's just a tremendous amount of violence in Compton. Mm-hmm. And it's in a lot of places. If the are you familiar with the Cabrini Greens area? Yes. Cabrini Greens. Uh-huh. That's in Compton, right?
Yes.
Is that Compton? Mm-hmm. No, what is it? It's not Cabrini Green, Chicago, but we'll say Cabrini Green. What's the place in
Nickerson Gardens?
Nickerson Gardens.
Nickerson Gardens.
Let's say I'm from the Nick. Mm-hmm. Or the Nick, is that what we call it?
That's what they call it.
I've been there. I've been there a couple times. Mm-hmm. And so let's say that I decided that I don't like it here, so I'm going to send all of my people to Culver City. You can't just rush Culver City. I mean, you just can't.
Well,
you don't have.
California belonged to the lands. It was part of Mexico.
California was part of Mexico. Okay. But so what would be the alternative where I don't like where I'm living in Compton? But you know what people in Compton have to do? People in Compton have to do one thing, and they do it. They don't just have to do one thing. They don't like the police. They change the police force. They change the police to the sheriff. They don't like the mayor. They vote them out. Down in Honduras, they have that same option. Now, mind you, they want to escape. Mind you, they want a better life for their family. I get all that. But imagine if they wanted to send them to your house, Carol. So if they wanted to send people to your house, where your house is, you know, I haven't been to your house in a while, but I do know your house is nice.
So you think everybody from Compton's bad?
Absolutely not. So look at the Williams sisters.
I'm one of these people, because somebody said this to me the other day. They said, we were talking about affordable housing, and they said to me, well, I can understand people not wanting people to live if you're paying $4,000 and they move in. I said, really? So if I lived next door to you and I was affordable, you think you're better than me?
I don't think it's a better than you. I don't think it's
they
that.
They don't know how to answer that because to me, rents are so high right now. And
oh my God.
Are just turning against each other. I think we have our own war going on here. And who's to say our country can't be like these countries that are running to get away from this? Who's to say we're not going to be running one day to get away from here with our
Well,
families?
if we don't protect our borders, we most certainly will. There's no other way about it. And if you look at me as a parent, imagine if I had my 13-year-old daughter, and Stephen, I really see you as a son. I really do. But you. Imagine if I had sent my, 8th grade son to California, just go and just try to get in. I just imagine if I as a parent did that. Would our option be, let's stay down in Honduras and let's fight for our land? And down in Honduras, their lands go back thousands of years. You look at, say, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. Now, mind you, they don't like that position, and I disagree with Trump's position there too. But those Palestinians have been there for thousands of years, and their ideology is to fight for that. Those Palestinians, they aren't saying we want to go to America. I guarantee you they want to come to America, but the Palestinians are staying and they're fighting for their land. There's people in, Iraq and Afghanistan, and they'll tell you, we've been here for thousands of years. So their option is not to now let's go back to the Indians. What happened to the Indians? And they're not even Indians, and it's even wrong to call them Indians. Do you know why we call Indians Indians, by the way, Stephen?
No, Native Americans.
They're Native Americans, but the reason we call Native Americans, and they are Native Americans, and my grandmother's part Native American too, by the way, but the reason we call them Native Americans is because Columbus, he set off to actually go to India looking for spices. Back in the 1400s, spices were the thing. If you could go
make
get
the
peppers,
queen or king real happy with some new spices.
Spices was the thing, and Christopher Columbus got lost. And when he got lost, he found a land, and he thought he was in India.
So he called them Indians.
He called them Indians.
Wow.
And it stuck and it stayed.
He obviously didn't have a GPS.
Oh, he certainly didn't have GPS. Yeah, but he did. But he actually got lost, and he
wasn't in India though.
He certainly wasn't in India. And Carol is absolutely right. He did not discover America. The American Indian, and I'm probably wrong about this. And I'm sure I'll get in a lot of trouble about this, but the Palestinians, in my assessment, are the American Indians. Do you guys follow any of that? Lee, do you follow any of that? The Palestinian conflict. And when I say they're the American Indians, is that because the Palestinians were there, and I'm sure I'll get in trouble with some of my Jewish friends, and maybe I'm just not knowledgeable enough. So if anyone wants to, explain it to me, I'm open to understanding.
If I had known that, I would, because on my other side,
they don't call it
my
Columbus
mother's
Day.
Jewish.
Your mother's Jewish. Okay.
I would have had some of my relatives calling on you.
What do you feel about the? And
I think it's wrong, and a lot of Jewish women that live in Israel now, they don't like what's going on either. It's that guy that runs the country.
Yeah.
They don't like it when you're grabbing 5-year-old kids and throwing them in jail or killing them or beating them up.
It just seems to me that
they don't like that no more than we do. But we're seeing the same thing starting to happen here.
It seems to me that it's wrong.
Feel good with these group of, I don't know, because I have a lot. Most of my friends are white, and they're all thinking the same way we all think, that this is horrible.
Well,
but how are you going to feel when those bunch of rednecks, that's how I look at them, racist assholes, start shooting these kids? Because that's what's headed here, families with kids. And Trump's only doing this for people like you that don't want him over here because he feels he'll get more votes. Well, the minute this is over, this election, let's say everything goes the way Republicans want, you won't hear no more about it.
Well, it's a political
stunt.
All
the stuff he promised people. Look how fast he started removing all that.
But this is the thing, and I agree with Trump here, is that Trump is there. The ideology of his base is to protect the southern border, is to shut down the southern border, and it is to not allow people here illegally.
Why just where Latins are coming in? I'm just curious. What about, how are all
Other
these
borders.
Asians getting in here? I mean, my building where I live, every built place, and I am not racist. I have no problem with it. I think our country was built on diversity, so, and he's trying to change that. But how are they all getting here? I mean, every time a place goes up for sale where I live, it's somebody either Asian or Indian.
I think a lot of it has to do with the world market, and LA is such a dominant
we can't go to
place.
their country and buy a property like that. Go try to do it.
Sure, it's. I mean, it's
Difficult.
obviously quite
So I'm
challenging.
just saying, how are they all getting here?
I
used
totally
to know
agree.
A girl, she made a fortune putting these eyelashes on women. She wasn't no citizen, but she was making a lot of money. She wasn't paying taxes, but she got away with it.
Making a fortune.
Making a
She
fortune.
was making money when they came out with those eyelashes they put on. The
But
eyelash
back to
extensions.
my basic principle about the whole immigration thing. When people come here illegally, if you come here illegally, let's say I tell you, Stephen, hey, Stephen, if you come to Playa del Rey illegally, if you do that, and let's say I've told you with a restraining order, told, hey, Stephen, by the way, if you come to Playa del Rey, you will be arrested. Mm-hmm. And you know that, and you have a restraining order, so you know you're going to be arrested, right? Mm-hmm. Now, what would happen, Stephen, if you came to Playa del Rey? What would happen?
I'm going to jail.
You're going to jail. So what would happen if you came to Playa del Rey with your son or your daughter, or if you have a kid? What would happen?
She'd probably go to jail too, or they'd take her and put her in a camp.
Right, and that's what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
But the people are being told, and you have to agree with this, Carol, people are being told, do not come to the States illegally. And their idea is, well, I'm going to come illegally anyway, but you're going to be arrested. Well, I know I'm going to be arrested, but when you arrest me, can you please keep my kid with me? Can you imagine me telling you? Mm-hmm. Can you imagine me telling you that? Or let's say, Carol, let's say you go to Walmart or Walgreens and you steal some diapers. You know, we would say to you, Carol, don't steal diapers, because that is stealing diapers or coming to the country illegally is a crime, and you will be arrested and prosecuted. Mm-hmm. Sessions, Trump, they've all said that you will be prosecuted if you steal diapers, or if you come illegally, or if you steal a car, or if you do anything illegally. If you spit on the street illegally, you will get arrested. And your argument is, well, I want to be arrested, but can you keep my kid with me? Am I right? I love that. No, it's exactly anything that you do. If you do it illegally, let's say you get into a bar fight. Mm-hmm. If you get into a fight at a bar and you have your kid with you, say, I'm getting into a fight. Oh, but could you keep my kid with me?
Your kid may get sent off to Child Protective Services.
That's what's happening with our services. And what's happening is so many people from our southern border, they're rushing the border, and they're saying, okay, well, I was hoping you keep my kid with me. Mm-hmm. And that's just not the plan.
If you break the laws, your kid's going to go into a camp.
And that's what's happening.
Well, you know what it kind of reminds you of? They're not, and who's to say what they're doing to these kids? Because I've heard they're testing drugs on these kids. Who's to say they're not? It's not similar to almost the
concentration
Holocaust.
camps.
Maybe not as bad, but to me, it's a concentration camp. I mean, kids that have gotten out of there have said they've used drugs on them. Kids have been raped in there. So do you think that's okay that they're doing these to these kids, separating them from their parents?
I think that's horrible. But if I, as a parent, heard that were happening in Canada, I wouldn't send my kids to Canada.
But you know what?
That's what I wouldn't be doing.
a country that you can run to, because if you want to call it a spade, let me tell you how I feel. I don't have a country to go back to. This is my country.
Oh, it is. You're absolutely right.
People were brought over here as slaves, which was horrible. Jewish people came here to get away. You can see ships. There's pictures of Jewish people trying to get here too. Why is it all of a sudden this asshole, I'm glad because we can say that on this radio station, why is it all of a sudden he just has a problem with everybody but his white, pink ass, whatever you call him?
I really don't think it's that he, and it's not a racial thing.
He's a horrible person. He is a racist.
I think that's a valid argument. That's just can be disputed.
You really don't think he's a racist?
Well, I think that Trump's ideology is that he wants to, okay, let's say the Democrats take the House, which is a really reasonable idea. Mm-hmm. Do you agree, Carol?
It's very
the
possible.
Democrats will probably take Congress.
Take the House, but who's to say how they're going to cheat? Look what they're doing to polling places. They're moving. In one state, they're moving it so far away where there's not even a bus stop where they can get on a bus and get off. They got to walk miles and miles.
Well, but look what the Republicans did to Obama. Obama, to me, was the best president ever. Well, no one thought it was. I never thought it was okay.
But they did.
But what Trump, not Trump, but what the Republicans did, they said, we will shut this guy down. Anything this guy tries to do, we will shut down, because they control the houses. And now what's going to happen, if the Democrats take the House, they have the same plan, whereas they're going to essentially shut government down. And that's my only issue with anything happening. And that's my issue with the Democrats winning. I hope they win. I hope they do become the dominant party. But be prepared for our country to get shut down, because they're going to try to, and I think they should impeach Trump. I think it would be the right thing to do. The guy lies.
Yeah, but do we want Pence in there? He's just as bad.
He's just as bad.
That's a good point. That's a really good point.
He feels, there's a movie out right now. I think it's about conversion when somebody's gay. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, I had heard that.
It never worked. My friend, and my son's gay too. And I don't have a problem with that.
Oh, I don't.
But
Los Angeles.
What I'm going to tell you is my friend, when he was young, they did that to him. But you know what? He's the biggest queen I've ever met. So it's obvious it doesn't work. And who are we to say who somebody should be with? God created all people, all living things, from plants to. And I've told people before, God did not write this Bible. God did not write the Bible. Man wrote the Bible. Man has changed that Bible. So my philosophy is just a lot of things you see going on, it shouldn't be happening. Not in this day and age, because we fought for years like women. We fought for our rights. If we want an abortion, this is our body. Years ago, a woman couldn't get an abortion, so she went to these seedy little places. Possibly she's going to bleed to death after. Even if you were raped when I was younger, it didn't matter. You had to carry that baby.
Well, and that's.
Why are they trying to take women's rights? Why are they doing a lot? Everybody has the right for their own opinion, but what I do with my body is my body.
When you look at Trump supporters and Trump's base, a lot of people are so sincere about wanting to, wanting to ban abortion. They're willing to accept Trump's missteps and his lies. Because they are so compelled by the abortion and the borders. Those two phrases resonate so well with people. But back to our.
Do you think Trump really cares about that?
So which prop is this? Do I need to vote yes or no? You guys got me confused. Yes or no?
On 10, I'm voting yes.
On 10.
I feel sad when I see all these people on the streets. I would like to see better rent control. And
we certainly need rent control in California.
I feel now they just raise your rent, but they don't want to fix broken stuff in your. I think if they're going to raise your rent, then they should fix stuff in your place.
So we're supporting Prop 10.
I'm supporting it. Yes.
I would support Prop 10 too. Do you feel rent control in California is?
It's getting out of hand.
I actually own property in a different state. And I'm thankful that we don't have rent control, but my rent control is really limited because I can't raise the rents because, first of all, I really enjoy my tenants. And if I raise the rent, I'd probably lose some of my tenants. And, I have a great relationship with all my tenants. Some of the other propositions that are there, Proposition 8, kidney dialysis. Have you followed that proposition, Carol?
Yes.
Where are you at with that? Proposition 8, from what I understand.
I feel.
Let me give a little background about property.
I feel no on that one because I don't think they should do anything with the diet. People die if they don't have it.
I am so concerned about the prices of anything, healthcare, and even with marijuana. I think we're at a position where drug companies can do practically whatever they want, and they can compel you to do whatever you want. I have a drug right now that we're using at our facility that is $13,000 a dose. That's a dose. It's a drug that we actually use to help with our clotting factors. When you bleed, Normally,
why is it so expensive? Is it that expensive to make?
Is it that rare?
drug companies got us.
Yeah.
They really have a position.
What about this new pain pill they just announced? It's going to be so powerful. I don't understand if they're trying to stop opiates. Or do you know what I'm talking about?
I know just what you're
I've seen it on the
talking about.
news.
Yeah, there's a newer drug, and the name's gonna escape me, but this is a drug that is exceptionally potent with a very short half-life, and it will actually, if you're in like pre-op pain, post-op pain, it's extremely strong. It's almost like a fentanyl type product, and it's thought to be really strong without some of the side effects. But these things will be exceptionally expensive, and what's happening is the companies can really justify even the cost of this. We're giving this patient this $13,000 dose like every 3 hours
For blood clotting.
For blood clotting, yeah.
And does it work?
It does work. It does
Why
work.
so expensive? I mean, my daughter has to get a shot, and it's like over $3,000 a month. I mean, luckily she doesn't have to pay it. But if Trump
But someone has to pay it. Someone is paying it.
Well, good, but because my daughter wouldn't be here.
Insurance.
Who's paying it?
Insurance.
Insurance.
I mean, it's like chemo for her.
Yeah. Well, I think I
just think pharmaceuticals are out of control, and I think that's like I keep telling you, all these holistic doctors are being found dead because they know if people become aware of holistic what is happening. Because I wanted a friend of mine to call in today. I was trying to reach her because she has cancer. And I think she's still going the holistic route. And there was a doctor, I've seen something where they announced he used cannabis. And he says it's helped him.
Well, it certainly can help. And I think cannabis, like drugs, generally speaking, are good. But it goes back to the addictive nature of drugs. And anything, you look at our
well, sugar's addictive.
Sugar's addictive. But you look. Let's go back to our drug for clotting, which is $13,000.
Wow.
You're intelligent. You're intelligent. I'm intelligent. I can come to you and say to you, Stephen, your patient needs this drug. Your patient needs this $13,000 drug. And as a physician, your only choice is to say, well, what are the alternatives? Well, my alternative is giving blood to your patient. And you could make an argument that your patient has certain religious ideologies that prohibit you getting blood.
Blood transfusion?
Yeah, they will not allow blood transfusion. So the patient's going to say, if you were a patient, say, look, I'm not.
It's against my religion.
It's against my religion. So I want the $13,000 drug. But what would your drug company say?
Who's going to pay for that?
Or what would your insurance company say?
Who's going to pay for that?
Right. So
who ends up paying for it?
Well, the insurance company would have to pay for it, but the insurance companies are being crippled by these drug companies that are, they're addicting us to even stuff like that. And
is there an alternative to it?
There's a blood alternative. Blood is an alternative. Another alternative is another clotting factor. But now this patient's, and I don't want to describe this patient too much, but the reason you give this patient, this patient had some trauma. This patient fell and hit his head. So this patient was, let's say we're going to use a phantom patient. And let's say this patient was skateboarding. And this patient fell and hit his head. And so what you use this $13,000 every 3 hours for like a day or two. You use that drug on this patient. And you fought with the insurance, and the insurance company finally declined. No, they finally accepted it, and they'll pay. So you get the patient, and you discharge the patient, and you discharge the patient home. What do you think happens 2 days later?
Clotting starts again.
He falls and hits his head again.
Ooh.
And he comes back. Yeah, at some point, your insurance company is going to say to you, we don't know what to do here. And drug companies have addicted us to the idea, and I don't think they've addicted us, but if it's your life,
you want that drug.
It is absolutely. And if you are whatever your religion would be, you're compelled to say, I'm not paying. I have insurance. And your insurance company will come to you, but look, this is $1 million. And your insurance company will come back to you. And there's no possible way in your lifetime. Insurance is a gamble. Insurance is a gamble that, like with your house, like I have.
They expect you never to use it.
Well, not never to use it, but it's leveraged so that, let's say I have earthquake insurance.
I have it, do you?
You have earthquake insurance?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, so I have earthquake insurance. So the chances that there's an earthquake, I've paid so much money, or auto insurance. There are auto accidents. There are auto accidents.
You've paid so much into that premium.
Exactly. So it's a leverage, whereas everyone's paying $1,000 a year, and there's going to be X number of accidents, which is the probability, and the insurance companies will make money. Insurance companies are not entities that just toss money to problems. And if you are, getting drug therapy that is $1 million a year, well, there's no way the insurance company is going to recoup that amount of money. And not only would they not recoup that money, but they will need X number of people like myself and like yourself and like you. Hopefully we are healthy, that can actually make the averages work, because the numbers have to work. It's like you sell a bottle of soda and a person comes back and say, hey, this bottle of soda or this marijuana is not good. This marijuana is terrible, or this marijuana is contaminated. Well, you're able to bring that marijuana back and say, you are. Well, as a businessman, you are. You can bring it back and say, hey, look, I'm sorry, but I'm going to give you a brand new one.
So would you let them return it?
I've had customers that have came to me and said the product was too dry before, and we do replace it. Okay. If it's not fresh and it's not to the quality that we usually like to uphold, we will exchange it. Customer service is important to us.
Well, and you do a great job, but that's your insurance. That's your insurance.
But now, I find this, being a person, because I think we all need a therapist. We might pretend we're not, but I think we all have issues.
Somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
Can we call that personally?
My person's always trying to give me some pills. Hey, let me add on to this. I go, no. I find that I don't smoke weed because of my acid, but I smoke the little vapor things. And I can honestly say it helps me. It will relax me, and walking does it for me.
Yeah.
Instead of taking those pills.
Me too.
Yeah, it really
For all of our listeners out there, get outside and take a walk around the neighborhood. It'll help you out. You don't need any medications or this or that. Take a walk around the neighborhood.
Carol, have you ever smoked, by the way? Smoked cigarettes?
No.
How about cigars?
I pretended I did, but I didn't.
Cigars.
No, I don't even want to date a guy that would smoke a cigar. It smells.
Oh yeah, smoking cigars is a thing, and periodically I'll smoke a cigar. I don't think my wife likes it so much when I smoke cigars. I think it's the breath or something.
My mom says I'm never going to find a wife with a backwood breath.
Oh, is that right?
The cigar breath.
The cigar breath.
Do you smoke cigars?
I do.
You smoke cigars?
Yeah, your breath would be pretty bad.
Which cigars do you typically smoke?
Backwoods.
Backwoods, is that what they are? Backwoods cigars. I'm not familiar with backwoods cigars.
It's what I roll my marijuana up in.
Oh, is that right? Doesn't matter.
It's a cigar. I use a cigar to roll my marijuana up in. I don't use papers.
Our show today is which is more addictive. Actually, we're talking cocaine or marijuana. Cocaine is much more addictive than marijuana. So. Much more. Nicotine, though, it's on the fence there. Nicotine's pretty addictive, too.
Is there nicotine in marijuana?
There's not nicotine in marijuana, but just like the cigar I told you I smoke backwoods. That's nicotine. It's a tobacco leaf. It's a cigar, and I roll the marijuana up in there. It's extremely addictive.
Is he on? Voicemail. Okay.
Well, I know what you call it was supposed to be called.
So I wonder what's more addictive, nicotine or marijuana? They're both addictive.
They're both addictive. They are.
I think nicotine is worse.
Nicotine, you think is worse?
I think so.
Well, yeah, because a lot of people that smoke weed,
cigarettes,
they do it every day, and they do their cigarettes.
Oh yeah.
I couldn't do that. I have friends. They'll call me, and I'll say, "Oh, you're rolling a joint." And they go, "How do you know?" I go, "I can hear it."
Can you hear it?
Yes.
You can actually hear someone rolling a joint.
And you hear this.
What
I know what they're doing. I go, "You're rolling a joint."
What do you feel? And I always I'm curious, and I'm sure you've told me this before. When you roll something, what are you separating?
So when you roll up the weed, you're taking the big bud, which comes as a nugget, like a nugget. So you're taking that nugget and you're breaking it down into little pieces so you can form it into a cigar, into a straight line. Because you can't take that nugget and make a straight line out of it. Right. So you break up that nugget into little small pieces, and then you perfectly put it into a line to fit your cigar.
Okay. As you guys all know by now, I'm from a long line of farmers, and I did such a terrible job trying to grow marijuana. I did a terrible job. But had I have grown the marijuana that was stolen by, and I don't want to say Lee Michaels did it, but the marijuana.
Now Lee stole that.
You can't tell people you got plants in your backyard.
Yeah,
they will
people
come up
actually
missing.
will steal them.
Oh yeah.
But the thing on our farm, yeah, that was a great plan.
My gas.
That was a great plan. That was I was so proud of that. But the thing about my grandparents,
even worse than polio.
No, the thing about my grandparents, and this, Stephen, this is my question to you: if we had a hog, because my parents would raise hogs, they'd raise hogs and they'd raise chickens, and what my grandparents would not do. And this is what I would have a hard time doing, is wasting any part of the chicken. You know what we would do? We would slaughter a chicken. We'd wring his. Have you ever seen anyone wring a chicken's neck?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen it? That's a you've run. From a farm, that's a really tough thing for a kid to see. And I watched my grandparents do, but it's necessary
now. But when I was younger, no.
You wring his neck.
Their heads off
you wring a chicken's neck. You actually take his neck. Like my grandpa, he would take and he'd twist the chicken's neck, and it would snap the neck off. Exactly. That's exactly. Yeah, you're right.
I would never do that now.
My grandfather would do that, and you know what would happen? The chicken would actually run around
with his head off.
Yeah, they run with.
Yeah, that's why if you ever hear someone say that they're going to wring your neck, that's what they're talking about. And it was, for a kid, when we go to my grandparents' house down in Georgia, we would see that. And one thing my grandparents did. They never wasted any part of the chicken. You'd even see the chicken's legs or the feet, the chicken feet.
Well, the Asians love the chicken feet. And
the feet. So I guess what I'm asking you, Stephen, and Carol, if you know, what part of the marijuana plant do we waste? Because I heard you say we were actually taking okay, so you're separating something. Mm-hmm. And what are you separating?
So you're just taking it from a big nugget, and then you're breaking it down into small particles so that you can put it into your cigar. But even the shake, even the small particles, they're not wasted either. That's what people make their edibles out of.
Out of the shake?
Yeah, shake. So people if you don't have big buds, you got real sand and real consistency, it's a whole bunch of THC in there.
Bring some in and we'll show you how.
Yeah. For sure.
People take this residue in this shake and they make edibles out of it.
I see. So if I had a plant.
The plant is not wasted.
Let's say I had a plant that's growing here, and let's say you are growing the plant and you have a trash can. What would you put in the trash can? What goes in the trash? What would the trash man be picking up?
Absolutely nothing. All the parts of the tree are saved. They can do something with it. Even the plants that don't have THC in it, they even take that, and some people make paper out of it.
So zero.
None. You don't throw that plant away.
Zero.
I've grew weed before. I don't throw nothing away. Mm-hmm. Even the soil. We reuse the soil.
Mm-hmm. Do we have a caller, Lee? Yeah. Oh, good deal.
Alfie's back.
Alfie, how are you?
I'm doing just fine, Wallace. Wallace, I got a question for you.
Sure.
And I don't know you that well, and I don't want to seem to. What the fuck are y'all talking about?
Well, I'll tell you. Carol seems to have issue, and you know what? I love Carol. You know that. Alfie's question is, I don't know if our listeners can hear, but. Oh, they can hear him. Alfie was wondering what about the kids that are coming up on the border. We're talking about, one thing we're talking about is which is better, which is more addictive, coke or marijuana. And I think the feeling is cocaine is better. We're also talking about kids on the border being. What we're talking about is which is better, which is more addictive. We're talking about kids on the border being taken with their parents. What do you feel they should do, Alfie? If you can hear me, what do you feel we should do with the parents that are arrested on the border and they bring their kids with them? What should happen?
They brought their children. They're fleeing oppression. That's what they're doing. They're fleeing oppression. Not one of those families. And for the children who are coming alone, that's because the parent can't come. And it's cheaper to send the child with the mule in hopes of saving the child. This is one of the most, and think about this. Who in our history has changed the asylum laws to keep brown people out, to keep that shadow, that cloud over asylum seekers?
So
if they stay, they die. If they come, they go. They lock them up.
So people that come to now, and Trump Trump ran, and I'm not a Trump supporter, but Trump ran on, and Sessions ran on, if people come here illegally, you're going to be arrested. So if I come to Chicago, if you told me, hey, Wallace, if you come to Chicago and steal at the Walmart, you're going to be arrested. And I said, you know, Alfie, I'm hungry and I don't have food here, so I have to come to Chicago to your Walmart and I have to steal to eat because you have to eat. And you say to me, okay, Wallace, if you want to do that, you're going to be arrested, which is what I'm saying to people that are illegal or coming here illegally. So if you say to them that you're going to be arrested and you're telling me, Wallace, you're going to be arrested, and I say, well, Alfie, I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring my kid. And what would your solution, what do you think you should do with my kid?
Well, first of all, Wallace, your analogy of them coming here to steal from the Walmart is so specious, I can barely address it. Because what you have done is frame them as someone coming to do harm, someone coming to break the law.
So do we have laws? Do we have now I can make an argument that we should repeal those laws, or you could make the argument that we should repeal those laws. And there's laws that say people here illegally can vote, cannot vote, but those are still laws we have to adhere to. We are a country of laws, and we are a country.
Nobody here illegally is trying to vote.
That's not true.
Okay, all right.
I'm telling you, that's not true. In San Francisco, and this is. So
you're saying we have rules that restrict these people from coming in here. So if they decide to take their son or child and come over here, then they have to deal with the consequences.
Exactly.
That's what you're saying.
That's all I'm saying. And Alfie, do you agree with that? Now, I agree that maybe that's wrong, but I know that the Trump, and you know this too, Alfie. You know this. The Trump administration and the Justice Department. They've said that right now we are going to, and they have said we are going to enforce this law. Mm-hmm. That's what they've said. And if they're not joking.
If you try to come over here and get arrested, they're going to lock you up.
I have a question. How did your ancestors? Well, I know how yours got here.
At one point,
but I'm just curious. How do you judge that when everybody came over here illegally? Then
I agree. And we're blessed.
At one point, slavery was legal and it was all right.
They've started it again in Libya, I think, isn't it?
And it was all right. So, look, if you...
I don't know how you can disagree with that. I really don't. And I'm not even trying to be an advocate. But if you come here illegally, the Trump administration has said that, and the Justice Department, they've said that you will be prosecuted. And if they're saying you will be prosecuted, that means you will go to jail. Mm-hmm. That's what it means.
You will be prosecuted as they change the asylum laws with executive order, not even with congressional law. What they are doing, Wallace, is the white supremacist, white nationalist bit of let's deny people of color entry into this country. People of color built this country. And
I agree.
Okay, so if you can agree with the foundation, with the basis of what's going on, why is it that you want to put a few, I would call them speciously couched laws? Oh, you can't come to this country illegally. They've been coming to this country illegally for decades.
It's not just this country. If you look at Italy, the Somalians now, because they're being persecuted, they're flooding Italy, or they're flooding Germany.
Well, in Brazil now they want blacks out.
They're flooding these places, and these places that have typically wanted to invite people, they're saying, we don't have the assets. Mm-hmm. If you wanted to come to my house, Lee,
I think that if you're going to enforce the laws that we have on the books, we have to be prepared to do so. Mm-hmm. Meaning, if you're going to stop people from coming in, or people that are already here, and you want to separate them from their families, then you got to make sure that you have everything in place to enforce that law. If you're going to separate people, the kids from the parents, You got to make sure you're putting those kids in a safe environment, and that you have an accounting of where those kids are, who they belong to, so when you put them back together, it's not in shambles and you don't know where the kids are, who they belong to, or where the parents are. And I think that's what got so many Americans upset when Trump started moving on this situation. And these kids are like in limbo.
Well,
they're innocent. They're kids.
I agree.
They never prepared. This was the plan all along. Just separate them. The hell with them. They're children of color. They don't matter. We don't give a damn about them. If you put that law or you put that policy into place as recklessly as they did, how can you give it any credibility? How can you give the people who started it any credibility?
Well, the law has always been enacted. However, we have never really prosecuted people to the extent of the law. It'd be the same thing as if people came into our studio right now. We're very inviting. We really are. But at some point, you're limited by how many people you can bring into your studio. And the U.S. is the same way. We're limited by, and we were just not prepared for people. If you brought people to use a restroom, and well, this is my thing with the kids is we are not prepared, and to take, what would we have? How many thousand people are coming on the caravan, which is just a stunt. That's absolutely a political stunt. Okay, but we're not prepared to take care of them.
If you can admit it's a stunt, how is it that you want to give them credibility? When you start talking about the law, slavery was legal at one point. Lynching was legal at one point. Go down the line of your history.
This does not compare to slavery and to lynching. This is people that are coming to our border illegally.
It's an example of what was legal, Wallace. Slavery was legal. Lynching was legal. But that doesn't mean it was right.
There's no parallel here. This isn't even close. Carol, there's no parallel.
I have a question.
There's no parallel.
I'm listening to you. Do you have gardeners?
Of course, I do have. I have a fantastic gardener.
I'm just curious.
I'm going to guess my gardener is probably of Latin descent.
So do you make sure he's legal, or do you give him cash under the table? Do you have a house cleaner? I'm just curious. Who cleans your house?
I do have a house cleaner.
So you're sitting here. Most of these people, they come here. You can go downtown on Alvarado Street. You see those people working their asses off. You can go to corners. You see them selling fruit. They're not trying to be on welfare. They work. It's other races that are living on welfare. Go check it. Go into a welfare office one day and just sit.
Okay.
And you tell me what race you see sitting in there. It'll crack you up. But I'm just curious, why do you hire them if you don't want them coming across the border?
That's hypocritical. I'm being hypocritical. That's absolutely hypocritical. Definitely. But by the same token, my daughter, and this is the truth. My daughter actually tried to get into UCLA. And my daughter, and you know my daughter, she was in the top 1% of her school when she graduated.
Wow.
Top 1%. And when she applied to UCLA is just a fantastic school. And it's also University of California, Los Angeles. It's also very affordable. My daughter could not get into UCLA.
Can I answer that for you?
But let me just finish. My daughter could not get into UCLA. And I actually had such an issue with that. I went to the admissions counselor and I asked her, why,
what does she have to do?
What does she have to do to get in? So my housekeeper, and I'm sure I'll get in trouble for this. My housekeeper had her daughter help out one day. And you're going to make the argument that she's illegal and...
No, I wasn't saying she was. I just asked
you,
do you pay her cash?
Right. But where do you think her daughter goes to school?
UCLA, but can I tell you something?
UCLA.
I want you to listen to what
So how am I as a parent to feel good about that?
I'm going to tell you why. Do you know how many kids are applying to the UCs? Mm-hmm. Years ago, we had what they call, I think it was affirmative action, where they looked too racist to make, but people didn't vote. So it was off the thing. They look at all the top grades. Now, my son, because I didn't have money, I put my son in Better Chance. I put him in College Bound. I put him in everything I could that could help him. I got him in Crossroads, which is probably a $28,000 a year school.
Crossroads is
I paid $50 a month. And you know why? Because there's all these things that'll help you. They go by the top grades. Do you know what the competition is? They don't know what race they are. They don't go by race any longer. At one time, if people had kept that infirmity in, this wouldn't happen. All races would get in. When he went to UC Davis, you'd be blown what the ratio was. More Asian kids were there than anybody because they get the highest grades. They go to school on Saturdays.
Well, it's true. You're absolutely right.
So I'm just telling you, you should see go by the grades, the top students.
Well, no, they certainly were not going because my daughter was top student. So that's not true.
She's up against top students from all over the United States. I mean, my son, I stayed on him. And they also look at it's a prep school.
What do you think it was? You think it was your daughter's ethnicity?
No, they don't look at your race.
It's
just too many applications.
Yeah, but by the same token, and I'm certain of it, there were kids that get accepted to UCLA where their status here is they're non-citizen. And my feeling is,
well, that's
a citizen
to say can make more money off of the ones that are coming from other countries.
I have issue with that, and that's
I see why.
That's trouble for my kids.
Well, then people should have went out and voted when they had that law in there that they would have so many people of different races. I mean, when he went to UC Davis, there was probably 1% Indian, and that was probably him.
Well,
probably 2% blacks, maybe 3%. And the whites was up there, but it was Asians.
Well,
and it's a trip, but that they do go by the highest grades.
Well,
they don't look
but
at
let's just say, let's go back to your kids, Alfie, that are here illegally. And I'm not for or against them.
Well, those kind of parents, they put their kids in those schools.
Okay, but the kids that are here illegally, you know what we do with the kids that are here illegally? What do you think we do with them?
The kids that are here illegally, they go to camp.
They go to, ultimately, even if they go to their families, we actually feed them, right? Mm-hmm. And we give them health care, and we give them free education.
You don't think that the government takes money from them?
From where?
They do.
From where? Okay,
the ones that work,
but they go to college for free. My kids don't go to college for free.
They don't go for free. When my son went, he got financial aid, but because he's Native American and he's registered Indian, the Indians step in.
But if you are
pay a certain amount,
I'm sure you're right.
A lot of people say they're Indian, but they want to see a number now because everybody's Indian.
My kids cannot compete with kids that are going to school for free.
But those
they're
kids,
for free.
There's schools that if you would put your kids through, you're not listening to what I'm trying to tell you. I helped a lot of people out with this, and these kids did get in top schools. I taught people if you're a child of any color, then you join Better Chance, you join Alliance, you get your kid in College Bound, because colleges, top schools like prep schools, take these kids.
If you flood our borders, unfortunately, my kids and I cannot compete.
USC
That's
has
just all there is to it.
A school you can go to at USC, and it's
you don't want to see your own children losing that place in the college from somebody that's illegal or non-citizen.
They've lost.
You're
They've
right.
lost that place, and it's hurt my kids. And by the same token, I have to hear on the radio kids say, "Oh, I'm here illegally. I want a chance. I want to be a doctor one day."
Well, that's because that's DACA.
My kids want to be a doctor one day. But my kids don't have that opportunity.
Now, I'll tell you another thing. You're smart when your kid goes to go to college. Do 2 years at a community college first because they're going to be undecided. Kids that are in Santa Monica College, they get right in UCLA. They get in there very easy.
And you're right about that.
I know I am.
Yeah,
so
right
my advice to parents is you don't want them in these top schools where you're going to pay a fortune. Have them go to a community college because then they know what they want to do. They don't have to go through the SATs. And they do take them.
Lee, could we call this guy again one more time? Manuel? But anyway, that's my trouble. That's my problem. And that is the issue that I can't get past.
But
and
see, if you
and
had
kids
come to
crash.
me, I would have helped you.
I know you would have. I know. But to be honest with you, I have probably more means than most people. I mean, financially, I don't do so bad. But it's still, my kids cannot compete with kids that are, and not only that, but the kids that are here, even if their parents are sending them, they send these kids to class, to public school, and these kids actually don't speak English. So my kids have to be in the same class with them at a slower pace.
When Columbus came here, did the Native Americans speak English?
Good point.
They did, because going on reservations, I belong to a reservation in South Dakota. They have their own language. So in a roundabout way, Columbus, was he from Italy? Italy, Spain?
That's true.
Did he speak English? So is that really the true language of
America? I wanted to take a minute. We have one of our guests on the phone, Manuel. Manuel played with Tina Turner. Manuel, how are you?
I'm doing fine.
What's up, E-Man?
Good. It's good to hear your voice. I always appreciate your listening and always appreciate your calling in. I understand Tina's not doing so well, Tina Turner. I know you played with Tina and Ike, and I believe she lost a son very recently.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, he committed suicide, and it's just very, to the point to where we just don't understand why. I mean, we don't understand. Why would he do that when he had everything going for him?
Yeah. I'm just a big fan of, actually I was a fan of Ike and Tina Turner. Ike had gotten a lot of negative, I think he still tends to get a little negative publicity, but just love Tina, and if you do see or talk to the family, oh my God, please give her our regards from Mondays with Wallace.
Now, did you
without a shadow of a doubt, yeah.
Yeah, you played with them, is that correct?
Yes. Yes.
Were you the big guy? Used to be a guy who was like muscular. I used to call him Hercules. He had longer hair.
No, I'm the thin guy with a big natural, and I did Tina's last tour basically, but I played with Ike for 13 years, but I was like on reserve for Tina because her lead guitar player got sick. And I did her last tour. Yeah.
We're trying to figure out, on this particular show, we're trying to figure out which is a better, or marijuana or cocaine or even ecstasy for playing. Is there a better entity? Or is there one that's more addictive? Because our conversation is which is more addictive.
Well, I would say what is more addictive is cocaine.
Absolutely.
Yeah, without a shadow of a doubt.
Mm-hmm.
Considering that I play with various artists that have made it, like such as Chaka Khan also, and she would have take 2 lines before she would go out and perform. Such as Ike, he did the same thing, but the last 5 years of him performing, Ike was clean. He was clean. He didn't get high.
Oh, that's good. That's good to know.
Mm-hmm.
The thing with cocaine provides you with elevated levels of alertness and energy and enthusiasm.
Adrenaline.
Yeah, a little mild euphoria too. Whereas
big time. Yeah, but
marijuana is kind of a relaxant. And
yeah. People, artists like Led Zeppelin, and Black Sabbath, they were into like marijuana.
But I thought Led Zeppelin was pretty intense, I thought.
Yeah, they were like into marijuana and heroin, because they were so amped up. The way they played, they were so loud, and I saw them perform, and I'm going to tell you, man, they were absolutely beyond bad. They were so good.
Really?
Bad. I just flipped out when I seen them play. It was like so, they were so into it and so productive. My God, man, I never seen a band that bad like Led Zeppelin in my life.
Yeah, we hit a lot of subjects. Carol?
I went to an event last night. I think his name was H.B. Barnum. Is that what I told you, Lee?
Yeah, that's a John Bonham song.
Yeah, I went to that last night, that tribute to Aretha Franklin. I was blown away with these gospel singers and these.
Where was it?
No, it was in Hermosa Beach, but they actually sing. They don't need auto-tune. These women just blew me out of the water. And that H.B. Barnum, he was the funniest guy I think I've ever watched.
Oh, is that right?
It was a great event. I was so happy I was invited to that.
Yeah, he's very, 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 very definitely good on the drums.
Yeah.
Is that what he did? I didn't know what he did. I was curious.
Well, I'll tell you, I hate to do this, but we get totally off subject here. But by the way, LeBron James, that got hammered the other night. We were talking about Crossroads. You know, his kids go to Crossroads. But I'm going to have to close. That's just going to about wrap it up for us today. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Thanks, Manuel.
Okay.
Thanks, Carol Lemire, and thanks, Steve Cotton from SC Edibles.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me.
We would like to always thank our producer, Lee Michaels, and Josefa Salinas. You could get us on the Power of Voices radio network. We're going to say goodbye to you. I don't think we're going to be in next week. I'm going to be back in Ohio next week, so probably not going to do a show next week. Thanks, everyone, for being with us. This is Mondays with Wallace. I am Wallace. You are on Flight 420 out of Los Angeles. Good night.